So we want to bring on one of our scholar warriors. You've seen her debate Dr. William Shockley on Tony Brown's Journal. You saw her on the TheAHNShow. You've seen her in the documentary Hidden Colors, The Untold History of People of Aboriginal, Moor, and African Descent. I want to welcome to, and she's also the author of the book that we've all at least heard of, if not read, The ISIS Papers. I want to bring to the African History Network show for the first time, hopefully not the last, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Hotep, sister, how you doing tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. I was tired before I got on the air, and then I talked to Dr. Walter Williams a few minutes before I got on the air, and that gave me a burst of energy, so I'm wide awake now. But but it's doing all right. Sorry, we ran a little bit over tonight. Dr. Williams ran a little bit over, but it was, oh, man, it was on fire. Okay, so you're going to be on fire Saturday, April 7th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., on Fire in a Good Way, Saturday, April 7th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., Samuel Coleridge Taylor, 507 West Preston Street in Baltimore, Maryland, and the topic is going to be dealing with black male-female relationships in the black community. I wish I was in that area to be at this. This sounds like a fantastic lecture. So, sister, why don't you give us, in the nutshell, give us some of the essence or some of the topics that you're going to discuss at this lecture.
Well, you know, I have been talking for the past 40 years. I'm getting an echo. Is that?
You getting an echo?
Yes.
Okay. You go ahead. It sounds okay on my end, and I haven't gotten any reports about an echo. You may try to turn the volume down a little bit on your end, but it sounds okay. It sounds okay here.
All right. Well, as I said, I have been reading, thinking, talking for the last 40 years, I would say, about racism, white supremacy as a total system structure. And it's my view that we are not making the progress that we could as black people because we haven't had an adequate framework for thinking about what our situation is. In other words, the black male-female relationship, for example, I maintain that it cannot be adequately understood. You know, people have tried to look at it in terms of how the male relates to the female, how the female relates to the male, and looking at that as an abstraction, but not looking at it within the framework of the local, national, global system of racism, white supremacy. And so when we understand what that system is all about, we not only understand the black male-female relationship, but we also understand at a deeper level what happened in the Trayvon Martin affair or the attitude towards the black president, Barack Obama, that the system of racism, white supremacy is a total system structure put in place by people who classify themselves as white for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival. White genetic survival is the objective, the ultimate objective of people who say, I am white, or classify themselves as white. And the system functions in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And it controls patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response, all orchestrated consciously and subconsciously towards white genetic survival and preventing white genetic annihilation. Now, we have not put in this perspective, in this dynamic perspective, everything that has happened to us, let's say, within the last 500 years. But if we understand what that entails, what's the meaning of white genetic survival? Well, it is related to the fact that whites are a tiny minority on the planet, and they are genetic recessive in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetically dominant black, brown, red, and yellow people. And of the people who have the greatest genetic potential to cause white genetic annihilation, it's black people. We have the greatest genetic potential to produce the black pigment melanin. Now, people are not accustomed to thinking about this. We used to think if they just took off the chains, everything would be all right. That's from formal enslavement. And we came out of that, and then there were laws that were put in place to keep black people under control. In the 60s, we saw what is called the Civil Rights era. If they would just change the laws, and if there was assimilation, integration, everything would be all right. Or people even thought if we get a black president, everything is going to be all right. Well, It's not all right. Do you see, just like we have the Trayvon Martin event, which is symptomatic of everything that has been happening to black males over the years, the lynching, the castration, the driving while black, police brutality. All of these things have to center on the ability to kill the black male at will, just like President Obama has received more death threats than any other president in history. Because the attack has to be on black people in general and black men in particular. That this is what this system structure is all about, because it is a black male that can cause and is perceived as causing white genetic annihilations, just like looking at President Barack Obama. His mother's white. His father was a black man from Kenya. And so you look at President Obama, you don't see anything about his mother. Because of the genetic dominance of blacks. Now, I have asked white people, do you want your children to be colored, your grandchildren to be colored, your great-grandchildren, your great-great? I'm polite and they're polite, and they say no. And I say, well, this is what, if you mean that, then you have to do certain specific things in the areas of people activity, as I listed: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war, to make certain on this particular planet, where the whites are fewer than 1/10 of the people on the planet, they're getting ready to be the minority population in this area of the world. And so they are extremely mindful of that, which is why when President Obama became president, they had the Obama effect, meaning more guns were bought than at any other time. And now we have these laws that are called Stand in Your Ground, which allowed for the killing. That means that any person who classifies him or herself as white can be next to or near or confronting any black person and say, I was afraid. And therefore they have the right to kill that black person. So now this is what we have to take our understanding to a completely different level when we understand the power system, dynamic, and structure in which we find ourselves on this planet. Do you see? So simply talking about black men and women loving each other, that's not going to cut it, because there is a war going on against black men. Black people in general, but black men in particular, which is why we have 70, maybe 80% of so-called black families are single-parent households without a male person.